Slotenie mute pe microfon. Wait, what? This is not fine.
Este! Salut! Noroc!
Salut, acum te aud.
Roman.
La tine era mute peste tot.
Poftim?
La tine era mute pe microfon, acum te aud.
Perfect, super. Salut la toți până ce o să înceapă a se conecta ceilalți participanți. Noi suntem la Startup Academy, este vorba despre program care este menit să educe în lumea, să educe și să descopere lumea antreprenorială printr-un format foarte constrâns de 10 module în care, pe pași concreți, în care fiecare poate să învețe cum să facă un startup de la zero. Este vorba despre 10 module care cuprind partea de introducere în startup, cum se face o echipă, câți oameni se marketing și vânzări, prototyping, ce să fie prezentată. Respectiv, Roman este aici, este unul dintre cei mai guru oameni care îi cunoaștem. Iată de ce, Roman, te rog frumos pe YouTube, adică să o fie înregistrat. Dar noi putem să move forward și eu deja...
E un dialog în decursul prezentării, deci dacă...
despre tine mai detaliat, să spui poate despre experiența ta.
Ok. Eu cumva m-am poziționat mai mult anume pe public speaking. Deci, pitching-ul este anume când tu prezinți într-o perioadă te restrâns de regulă experți în domeniu. Și pitching-ul se întâmplă de regulă pentru startup-uri la diverse sau alte evenimente focusate pentru business-uri care abia încep informaționale și nu numai. Deci, startup este oricare business care abia au apărut și are un business model care nu este predefinit și cel mai des când noi vorbim de startups, totuși este legat cumva de tehnologie. Și, de asemenea, eu activez ca coach pe public speaking pentru experți în domeniul tehnologiei informaționale și pregătesc deja de 5 ani speaker pentru conferința de Moldova Developer Conference și, de asemenea, ajut TechWell cu diverse programe de mentorat ce ține de public speaking sau pitching deja de vreo 3 ani, Mary. Cred că deja facem parteneriat în cadrul acestui domeniu. Deci, eu oricare prezentare, de regulă, deja am început să mă autoprezint, dar de regulă oricare prezentare încep de la motivul de ce ar trebui să creez cuvintele care eu le spun. Deci, la moment eu activez ca product owner la companie Pentalog și mă ocup de dezvoltarea la un produs intern pentru o companie internațională. Din motive NDA nu pot să divulg nimic. De asemenea, deci sunt public speaking mentor de 5 ani și sunt un UX designer pentru că se combină foarte bine cu partea de product owner și foarte bine se combină și cu mentoratul pentru startup-uri. Deci, și eu cred în cifre specifice, deci dacă noi vorbim în afară de asta, eu am 7 de ani de actorie, am fost deja în 5 competiții de startup și sunt coach pentru deja 5 evenimente mari în Moldova. Poate și mai multe, nu le număr pentru că deja nu contează. Deci, scopul pentru astăzi este să învățăm, să dăm întrebări și, desigur, să facem ceea ce se vorbește la noi în prezentare. Deci, eu nu văd dacă deja avem attendees. Încă nu, dar să sperăm că deja o să adună oamenii și o să dea și întrebări în cadrul prezentării. Pentru că eu să dau informația generală și careva subtilități, desigur, pentru fiecare slide o să adaug. Însă, ce am găsit ce mai interesant, că foarte des, anume în cadrul prezentărilor, noi deja începem să găsim niște momente mai interesante. Mary, foarte repede întrebare. prezentarea trebuie să fie în română sau în engleză? Că cumva am început cu română și nu țin minte, trebuie să fie în română sau în engleză prezentarea noastră. Mary, ești aici? Ok. Deci, pentru cei care fac acum join, vă rog să ridicați mâna sau să scrieți în chat ce întrebare aveți și noi putem cumva să adăugăm câteva subtilități mai interesante. Deci, când voi faceți o oricare prezentare sau vi s-a spus că voi să participați la un startup competition, voi trebuie să țineți cont de niște lucruri foarte simple, dar și în același timp foarte importante. Pentru că dacă voi răspundeți la următoarele întrebări, voi să fiți deja la 50% gata pentru orice competiție de startup. Deci, care este scopul prezentării? Eu cred că aici o să trec în limba engleză pentru că materialul este mai mult direcționat cu toată terminologia în engleză. So, basically, when you're preparing for any startup competition and you have a pitch to do, your first question that you have to ask, why are you going to specifically that competition? Do you want to earn to find money for your venture? Do you want to find partners? Do you want to find new workers or new partners in that medium you're going to? Do you want to promote your product for sales? Do you want to do it just for notoriety? So you have to have a very specific answer to any startup competition you're participating, because you have multiple, like hundreds of startup competitions each year just in Europe, not talking about the rest of the world. So you have TechCrunch, you have Slush, you have Pirate Summit. All of these startup competitions are very good, but each of them has their own specific need. Why you would want to go, for example, to Slush and not go to TechCrunch, or the other way around. So whenever you're invited to a startup competition, first what you need to do is you must understand why you're going there and what do you want to accomplish with your presentation by going there. As soon as you answer that question, you're already very well set to the next steps. Next step is time. So presentations have a very specific thing of being very short limited. So I had the opportunity to present in multiple time frames. I presented pitches in 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. I never remember anything like 8 minutes or longer, because pitches are not that long. They should be very concise and short. The idea behind it is that if you can't present your idea in a very short manner and simple enough for people to understand, then you're not ready. So that's why you're given very limited time to have a pitch presentation. So you have to be aware of that, you have to be prepared for that, and not complain about it, because everybody's doing it. And if multiple people have been doing it for multiple years, then you can do it as well. Also, you have very limited time constraint for questions, and we will address that point later on in the presentation. So the story. So this is something that is quite popular in the recent years, and this is something you should always care about in your presentation, because yes, depending on the type of the presentation, different people care about different things in your presentation. Though the one thing that is always persistent is the story of your presentation. So if you have your pitch deck, it should always follow a story, one coherent line of what is your product about, what is the problem, what is the solution, who is it helping, who's the target audience. So you should always keep that in mind and have not just a presentation, but also have a story. And the last thing that you should care about at the very beginning is picking the right person to make the presentation itself. The main problem is that a lot of people think they are good presenters, and that may be the case. But if you're in the team and you have 5 people, and the CEO is not maybe that good in making presentations, but the COO or the marketing specialist is very good at it, maybe he is the right person to present, even if he's not the CEO of the company. I have seen already multiple cases when the best person to present is actually not the CEO. He's the right, good person to do business, but not the good person to present because maybe his English is not so good. Maybe he doesn't have those public speaking skills that we're going to talk about. Maybe he's not that comfortable being in front of the audience. He's brutal in the business area, in the meeting room, but he's not that good in front of 100, 200, or 300 people. So that's what you should always consider when you're presenting something. If you do not have anybody on your team that does that, good. Well, you can take it to the bank and try to do it as best as possible as you can, or you could actually find the right person to do it. So let's dive in a bit into the types of pitches that you have at your disposal. There are many more from the ones that I will present right now. These ones are actually the main ones that you will be using. So we're going to focus on the main ones. And if you have any questions, please stop me and ask me on maybe a very specific thing in your pitches. So this is the get-go. The pitch to all pitches is the elevator pitch. So the elevator pitch is a 30 to 40-second verbal presentation of your startup idea, of your business, of who you are. You can use it not only to present your startups, but to present yourself and anything else that is important for you and you feel that other people should know about. So the elevator pitch was initially as an idea that you get into an elevator with an investor, and from the first floor to the floor number 12, you have 30 to 40 seconds to present your idea to the investor. And in that limited time span, if you manage to interest the investor, then you won. Well, you won the first part. So you piqued their interest, they're interested in your idea, and from then on, you can continue investing their time. So why does this matter? Why here it's even less than 1 minute? So we all know that time is very limited for everybody, and investors really value their time a lot. So, and you should value your time as well. So this is why if you are presenting to somebody, you should always try to present in the short part of your product. And in those 30 to 40 seconds, your main goal is to create an interest from the other party. That's the main goal. So usually in the elevator pitch, you should mention the most important stuff. And that is usually the problem you're trying to solve, the solution, how big is the market, and how are you unique compared to the other players in that specific market. If you have any patent, if you have anything that makes you unique and very valuable, then that should be one of the things that you mention in that elevator pitch. The elevator pitch should be very strong, very concise, and specific. So you actually have to practice it a lot. So the competition pitch. This is the most common one maybe you will encounter in the near future. Competition pitches are actually kind of a very straightforward thing. So you have multiple competitions. Even here in Moldova, you have Startup Weekend that is organized by ATIC and TechWill. Then you have a bunch of other hackathons that also are present here in Moldova. And then you have the international things like TechCrunch Startup Battle, Slush hosts, as far as I remember, some competitions. Pirate Summit is a startup also event. So whenever you go to a specific competition, the first thing that you should know, besides the logistics, how much it would cost, does it cost anything, how you can participate. If you go after that phase, what you should learn about is actually the guidelines for that specific pitch competition, because each organization that hosts startup events has their own specific guidelines to the presentation, what should be presented, what should not be presented, and so on and so forth. So the first, you should always ask that from the competition organizers, and they will most certainly give you that. What I've seen a lot of the times, very good organizers were actually what they will do. They will make some prep calls with you and show you how you should present. From the organizations I know, the best one in this one is Seed Forum. So if you ever go to a Seed Forum pitch competition, most likely, like 99.9%, you will meet an amazing person called Steiner, and he is very brutal with the preparation. He's making sure that each competitor that makes a presentation is very strict, concise, and follows the guidelines of Seed Forum. And continuing on the competition pitch, you should always remember and understand what is the deciding factor for making you win. For example, you have a lot of eco hackathons in the last couple of years. So they have specific guidelines, what is considered when they give you points. And one of the main points is how big of an impact you're creating to the environment by creating your startup. For example, if your startup is very a good money-making machine, but it does very little impact to the benefit in the environment, then you will not get the highest points. Whereas if the startup is not so maybe valuable in terms of money, but is creating a huge impact to the environment and benefits to the earth, then he will most likely win. So the other part with competition pitches, you should always understand what are the factors that decide who will win. So what are the judging criteria, you would say, to participating and preparing that pitch. Okay, moving on. Sales pitch. Sorry, just logistics. So sales pitch. These are the pitches I really kind of don't like because you require a salesperson for them. You can kind of not that so often see them at big stages because they're more about selling the product rather than creating a show, showing how awesome you are, how big of an impact you're creating with your startup. So they're mostly for small audiences, but you still need to be able to do them. So whenever you're creating a sales pitch, you're basically selling your product. So the answers this pitch should answer are quite simple. How much does it cost? What are the benefits of this product? And what problem does it solve for me? So if you answer those three questions, then you have a great sales pitch. The people that are going to buy your product, they basically kind of don't care about how big is the market size. They may not care that much about your team. Some do, some not. And all the other stuff. They care about what's the value for them. That's the only thing they care about. Then, not stopping too much here, since we don't have questions. So then you have the partnership pitch, though this one is more interesting. So one of the best platforms for partnership pitches, and they don't necessarily need a presentation deck for it, is TechCrunch. TechCrunch and Slush, and a bunch of others, the big ones. Why they are specifically good for partnership pitches? Because they create the environment for pitching your ideas to multiple people in just 1 or 2 days. For example, I was present at TechCrunch in 2017 with a startup that was promoting a virtual reality product for real estate. And the second day, we were provided with a panel for our startup, so people can approach us in the region of TechCrunch, where you have a bunch of like tons, like up to 100 startups in one place. And people can just approach you and they can ask you questions, ask for your business card, but basically just get to know you what do you do? What is the benefit of it? And they're most likely are searching for a partner there because you have other startups there, you have big companies there. So they're basically searching for partnerships. So there at TechCrunch, you would have the initial meeting. And after that, you would have, of course, the follow-up meeting when you're like one-to-one meetings with the potential partner, where you basically have to answer them, again, the same question, but in a more like strategic manner, how you can be valuable for them and what effort or what resources do you require them to give you. Yes, there is a question. Is there a question? Is there in chat? No, there is no question. Okay. Okay, sorry for the delay. Mary, if you wanted to say something, you're currently on mute, so sorry for that. Okay, continuing on. So the partnership, it should be, if you're making a pitch deck for this, then you should always take care for the most important slides are, what is your value? What are you bringing on the table? How you can specifically, you should have a specific very slide for the partner, how you can, what value you're gonna give them, how they can make more money thanks to working with you or partnering with you, and what are you asking them to give you? So if you answer those questions in the presentation, then you're all good. Continuing on is the investor pitch. So this is basically the hardest of them all. Usually the investor pitch is a very blatantly the investor pitch should answer to two specific questions. How much money do you need? And how fast can the investor get his money back? So if you can answer those questions, then I'm terribly sorry, just 1 second. So basically, if you answer those two questions, then you have already a good presentation. Nevertheless, that is not everything that you should consider in an investor pitch. So investor pitches are more intimate. You should understand one very specific thing, that investors are very specific on what they do. So if you're targeting an investor, you should always find the proper investor for you. Yes, I would give an example of a 1-minute pitch later on when I'm going to be presenting. I'm going to give very specific examples with presentations. Thank you for that question. So the investor pitch, usually it takes up to 20 to 30 minutes. You have something like 20 to 30 slides in your presentation deck. And there is one simple strategy that can help you have a very convenient and what would be the proper word? A very proper and good meeting with the investor. After each slide, you should always ask the investor, does he agree with you? Why would you do that? So you would want to do that because if the investor agrees with you on every point, then he believes in your idea. He believes that your project or product is very important, and then you can continue on. If the investor starts disagreeing with you, or he doesn't agree, for example, that your problem is very important. If you have a startup that helps, I don't know, let's say, helps combat malaria in Africa, and you say that the problem is that a lot of people die in Africa. That's a very crude but example that I usually make, but it's very good to making the point. And if the investor tells you that he agrees with you that this is a problem and it needs to be solved, then you can continue on and be sure that this is something he cares about. If he doesn't care about that, then most probably he's not the right investor for you, because you're at the very beginning, you already have differences in considering what is a problem and not. So if you have a product that solves the problem of, for example, creating, if you have a startup that's solving the problem of polluting the planet with electric car, and you solve that problem by creating electric cars, Tesla implied, and the investor doesn't care about the planet that much. He doesn't care about the ecology, or he doesn't care about cars, and he doesn't agree that that is the best solution for that you're proposing, then again, it's most probably that he is not going to invest in your idea. So one very smart Jew told me once, if your potential investor doesn't agree with you on every point of your presentation, most probably it's best to end that presentation at that specific moment. Okay, any questions on the investor pitch? Okay, we have no questions. Let's continue. Tailored pitch. So basically here you have everything that doesn't have a category that we talked about before this. The universal truth about presentation decks, you do not reuse the previous presentation decks presentation without changing it. Let me explain. So whenever you go to one competition, and in 2 weeks you go to another competition, I will most probably assure you with a precision of 80 to 90% that you will make changes to your presentation, or you have to make changes to your presentation, because everything is very different in 1 week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks. So basically you never have the same presentation. You always adapt it depending on where you go, what is your goal, what do you need to do at that specific event. And sometimes these presentations don't fall into one specific category, because maybe it has to accomplish 2 goals, or maybe it has to accomplish 3 goals. So whenever you have that, and categories are kind of like a thing that helps you, but most probably at some point you're going to understand that your presentation doesn't fall in any of those categories, because it does multiple stuff. But it's best that I would recommend that you should always keep your presentation falling in one category or another. Okay, so let's talk about the basic structure of a pitch presentation. What we're gonna do now, I'm gonna show you a structure of a presentation, what is the basic structure, what most startup competitions start with, and then maybe we're gonna take a break. And after that, I'm going to show you a specific example of a pitch presentation that I actually presented 2 years ago. But first, this is a repetition and a very big recommendation. Always ask for guidelines for a specific startup event, because again, they usually issue a specific set of rules. What is the number accepted of slides? What should be on the slides? What are the categories? What information you must show? So before doing the presentation, ask always for guidelines for the competition you're going to. So let's continue. The intro slide. This is the first slide that stays on the screen while you're preparing, where the person before you is asking any questions. Usually what they do is they change the slides, they change the presentation, and the audience sees the intro slide. So what you need to have on the intro slide is usually the logo, the name, and sometimes the motto of the slogan, as you would otherwise say it, the slogan of the startup. What amazing stuff do you do? So try to keep it as simple as that. Don't try to put anything else on the slide. The main idea of pitch presentations, they should be as simple as possible. They should have only the necessary information on the slide, and they should be presented in a very easy to consume manner. So first slide, logo, product name, company name, and slogan. That's it, nothing else. Second is the problem. So this is where you actually start your story. You started by telling what is the actual problem that you're trying to solve. So the problem should always be very simple and very straightforward. Don't try to complicate it. The less words you use to describe your problem, the better it is. So what you can do here, you can do multiple things. You could fit your problem into 140 characters, the Twitter criteria. So Twitter, in the beginning, Twitter had only like 140 characters. So your problem should always fit in that criteria. What you can do better is you can have that problem in 140 characters and then take only 1 or 2 words from the problem itself and say everything else by yourself. For example, you're saying that the problem is that we're polluting the air much faster than the planet is trying to process it. So it's very straightforward. But from all of those words, you can take just 1 word, air pollution. That's it, you just put it there. What works even better is when you put near that word a specific number, or even put just the number of the problem. For example, you specify how much air, like how much carbon emissions we produce each year, or in just 1 second. But that may be not enough as a reference. So you can actually take that number and put it on a reference. So you say that each minute we produce as much CO2 as this entire volume of space we're currently in. So you have multiple ways to present the problem to the audience. Here, the simpler you make it, the better it is, and the easier it is to explain. Another option you have when you're presenting the problem is you take a character. So if you're solving a specific problem, this is very common in social startups. So if you say that blind people have problems commuting in the city, so that is a problem. What you would want to do is you would want to personalize that person. You would give him like a supposed name. So you call him John Smith. And maybe you find an actual person. That's the best thing you can do, actually. That's the win situation. When you take, under the permission of that person, their photo, you put it on a slide, and you say to them, meet John Smith. He's a male, 35, working in Europe, in the city of Amsterdam, and he has a problem. He is blind. He has to commute each day 5 kilometers from point A to point B. And Amsterdam is a very busy city, and it's very hard for him to commute. So that is the problem. And when you personalize that, you have a very deep connection with the audience, so they understand even better what are you trying to solve. So as you saw, there are so many ways to approach the problem, but if we give a summary to it, that would be try to make it as simple as possible and easier to understand and comprehend for the audience. Next, the solution. Let's take that example of the problem we just told with the blind person. So here is where you in the previous slide, you made everything look grim, bad, sad. Here is where you have to make it happy. So we take the previous problem, and what do? We offer a great solution. Notice how I'm changing the voice so it sees better. We're changing the life of John by giving him the ultimate tool that he can have, the eyes of another person. So what he can do with our application, he can contact another person that will help him see where he is going by just pointing his mobile phone right in front of him. The other person will have a direct stream, video stream to his phone, and he will tell the blind person, he will help John navigate the environment that he's currently located in. So he will have actual direct visual contact that is transmitted to him via his phone, and he doesn't require any additional equipment, just our software. That was very long and maybe unnecessary, but you get the general idea that you have to say how you solve that problem in that specific scenario with your product. So the solution slide should be quite straightforward. Trying to not give too much information here, because if you want to give more information, how your product is more valuable, take a different slide and put that information there, and try to use only like 1 or 2 words to specify the value of your product. So once you present the solution, then you get into the numbers, then you get into the market. So here's where you have to specify how big is the market you're trying to penetrate. You can show it in different ways, but the best way to do it is to show how big is the market in numbers, for example, specifically in currency. So you say, we're addressing the European market that it has, I don't know, 1 million blind people. So that is one way to say it. The other way to say it is that the market for medical equipment for blind people is equivalent to $50 billion, or 50 billion euros, since we're in Europe. So here you have a very specific number in mind for the people that are looking at your presentation. And you say, in the next 3 years, we want to take 1% of that market. So 1% might not seem that much, but it's actually what, $500 million? That's a reasonable amount of money. So when you show in specific numbers what market you're addressing and how much do you want to take from it, people will have a very easy way of understanding what is your point. Next is the business model. This should be the most straightforward slide in your entire presentation. So you already have the very classical things for here. So if you're working with consumers, you just write B2C, business to consumer. That's it. Very sweet, very simple. If you have a business to business model, B2B. If you have a business to government, B4G. So try to very easily and straightforwardly fit what is your business model, and of course, how you make money. So for example, in the context of blind people, you can, by the way, the startup I'm talking about is actually a real startup. And as far as I know, it's free, but we are currently making an exercise. So we're gonna imagine that this is a SaaS business model, so software as a subscription. And you say that they pay €5 per month. So then everybody understands from this slide very, very clearly that you have a business to consumer model. It's a subscription, it's a subscription system, software as a service, and every user pays €5 for using that application. So that is pretty straightforward, and this slide should be as simple as possible. If you want to mention that currently you will support this business model, but in the future you will have another like expansion of your revenue models. Then you should show this separately, maybe on the same slide, but in a separate part, or even show it on a different slide. Competitors. This is the place where most people make a mistake by saying, we do not have any competitors. That is not true. You always have competitors, be it direct or indirect competitors. For example, Netflix, if you ever studied Netflix, you would actually read in some of their articles when they are asked, who is your direct competitor? They never mention any other streaming services as their competitors. What they're basically saying is that our competitor is the urge of people to sleep. So they're competing with people trying to sleep because they usually the time when people watch Netflix is in the evenings. So you have a very indirect and unobvious competitors of people trying to sleep compared to people watching Netflix. So taking that is a very extreme example, but let's take it to a simpler level. If you have a delivery service of food, very simple sort of idea that is everywhere right now. So you have them. So here you have to actually understand who you're competing with. You can have analog competitors, like basically the same competitors that are doing the same stuff as you are. And also you have unobvious competitors that are kind of doing the same thing, but not really. So for example, a pizza chain has their own delivery. They have a very restricted menu compared maybe to you, because you provide more a big variety of items that you can order. But the pizza is much more popular, and they represent 50% of all the deliveries in one area. So basically, that's a very heavy competitor for you. Then you have the also an obvious competitor, the ready to go evening dinners that you can buy at the supermarket. You just go by the supermarket, you buy some dinner, you put it in the oven, you put it in the microwave. It's a very fast solution to get food. That's also an indirect competitor. And of course, there's usually the regular fridge that has food in it. So you're basically competing with multiple parties here, direct and indirect. So what you should put on the competitor slide. On the competitor slide, you should put, most often you put the competitors that are your direct competitors who do the same thing as you or almost the same thing as you do. And at the same time, if you can't pinpoint direct competitors, that's a very good thing. That means that you're in the blue ocean situation when you have room to breathe. Then what you should do here is point to the indirect competitors that we talked about previously. If you don't do this, you will immediately get one question in the QA session from the judges. You will be asked, who is your direct competitor or who are your competitors? And if you answer them, I have none, then you immediately kind of lose. That means that you're not, didn't do the proper research and didn't do your homework on the market. So basically you don't know who you're fighting against. So there's always a competitor in any field. You just need to know who it is. Unless you make a teleportation device, then it's kind of will be really hard to compete with you. But let's be realistic, that's not likely going to happen in the near future. But if it does, I will be happy. So please let me know when that does. Next, go-to-market strategy. Simple 3-point plan. How are you going to penetrate the market? This should include, besides the obvious stuff that using Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram stories, and all of the other popular marketing stuff, you should also have an explanation how you're going to penetrate specifically to the market. Maybe you're going to do a referral program. Maybe you're going to contract influencers in the domain you're trying to sell, for example, continuing with the idea of the delivery service, you will contact mothers like Instagram mothers that popularize the lifestyle and stuff. So you contract them to promote your service. Maybe you will sponsor an event. So there is a lot of stuff you can actually do. There is a question, and let me specify a bit. So usually the go-to-market strategy should have a 3-point plan, maybe more, but don't try to make it as long as possible. Just say the key things that you will do in order to succeed and penetrate successfully the market. And here is where you have to think exponentially. So in Moldova, what is most often seen at multiple startup competitions, people think very locally and like they think small. Try to think here globally and how you will grow exponentially as a product. So when you write the go-to-market strategy, try to think of it how it will grow in the long run, how you can grow fast and with little effort. So that is your goal in describing the slide. Okay, now we go to the next slide. Validation and traction. So here is where you kind of show off what you did till this moment. What you want to do here is specify how many users do you already have. Do you have any real clients at the moment who pay you money? If you're a medical startup, for example, you should already have some ongoing validation from the medical field. For example, you have a certification that you are able to do this product or test it on people or on animals, depending on type of what product you have. Maybe you already want some investing till now. Maybe you already invested some of your personal money and you say that we already have an investment of 50,000 euros. And that is a validation that there is already trust in your idea. So in order to build trust, you must show that somebody else already believes in your idea. Maybe you found a supporter, maybe an angel investor that is supporting you not only with money, but also with his network and he's an advisor to the project. Anything that can show that you already started doing something should be here. Highlight 3 points, any 3 points that you consider the most valuable. You can highlight 5, but I usually go with 3 because you have limited time and limited attention span. So try to pick the 3 most valuable ones that you feel are going to look very good in the eyes of the audience and the judges. If you don't have any validation or traction to the moment you're presenting, well, try to create it. Try to leverage somebody to be your advisor on the project till the startup competition comes. Try to have a preliminary agreement with a potential partner. So try to get anything you can on that table. There is a good question. If I have a hardware prototype, how do I demonstrate validation? So here you should show where you're currently with that hardware. So at what stage of development you already are. So did you have already 1 version of the product, 2 versions of the product, 5 versions of the product, and it's already kind of finished and polished and it needs just a little bit more work with the software? Maybe you tested already that hardware on somebody or in the field or with potential customers. So if you can demonstrate that, that is also validation and traction. I hope I answered your question. The team. Team is very important. Investors, they look at the numbers, of course. The judges also look at the numbers, how viable is your idea, how big you can grow and all of that stuff. but they invest in the team. At the end, what matters most is who is on your team. If you're a medical startup, you must have somebody on your team from the medical field. If you're a hardware startup, you should always have somebody as a qualified rocket science engineer that has 10 years of experience of building like amazing machinery and stuff like that. If you're building a multinational scale software as a service, you must have DevOps that delivered projects, architects, whatever. Well, the main thing here is you must have the right people on the team and you must talk about them. If you're a big team, you can show highlights. You can say, we have, for example, 40 years of collective software development. You can say that we have the 3 best doctors in Europe on the subject of heart implants or stuff like that. So you can summarize these ideas in many different ways. The most important idea is that you have a good, very good photo of your team or the key members of your team, because people invest in teams and they want to see who you are. You should have a very nice photo with a smile. I really try to go for collective photos because they're much easier to show. If you have like 1 face, 2 face, 3 face, 4 face, and you have like the names under them, who he is and how much experience and years of they have like that, that is too much information to intake in a, for example, 5-minute presentation. So what I usually try to make, I try to make 1 single photo with the entire team, and right to the right, maybe the key things, what is the most important stuff. For example, iOS development, 15 years, UX design, 10 years, expert in the medical field, like only show the key thing, because nobody's gonna memorize your names, nobody's gonna memorize your job positions, and basically actually nobody cares about that. But they want to see how you look and they want to know what you can do to understand if you're the right people to do this project. And the demo. This is a thing that is not present everywhere, but most commonly you will see it, and it's very best that you do a demo, which means a demonstration of your product on stage. So here's where you have to be very, very cautious. It's best to not demo live a product. Why is that? Because as statistics shows, most of the times when you try to show a live demo of your product, software, hardware, whatever, something goes wrong. So try to avoid that thing. If you have a software, if you have a software, make screenshots of the application or make a video of using your application and comment on it, because this is something you can control and you're sure that it works. If you have a hardware project, make a video of your product working. You can also, what you can do here, you can win a lot by putting into the right angles, because even if you show a demo on stage, not all of the people will have a good look on it. It will be not the right viewing angles. So by making a video of your product, you can put the proper angle, show the best ways you can use your hardware, and basically give a very good impression about your product. I have seen so many times people on startup weekends trying to demo their products on stage after 54 hours of work. And whenever that happens, I can bet 80% of the time, something will not go as planned, maybe even more. I remember one time some guys made a VR application and they tried to demo it, connect it online to show it to the judges. And what happened? They basically wasted half of the time of the presentation because something didn't work. So this is not something you would want to do on stage. So play it safe. show a demo of your product by video or screenshots, and comment on it. If you're so sure that your product is not gonna break or go wrong during the presentation, you might take the risk and do it on stage. But remember, if it fails, you basically lose on the spot. So try to avoid making live demos. Try to make videos and screenshots because that as always works and is safe. Okay, we're gonna take a break now for 10-15 minutes, and then we're gonna continue with our presentation.
Ok, mersi frumos, Roman, până ce vedem dacă sunt întrebări de la colegi. Deci, toți care îmi scriu, practic, mulți o să dea întrebări, o să privească ulterior acest video. De asemenea, multă lume vrea să privească mai târziu. Așa. Eu aș vrea să te întreb, alo, pe mine mă auzi?
Da, te aud bine.
Aș vrea să știu dacă tu poți să faci un exemplu, să faci share cu o prezentare reală în care sunt menționate toate punctele acestea și să faci un fel de exemplu de pitch. Adică eu știu sigur că tu ai, eu chiar am prezentările tale. Da. Vreau să știu dacă tu ai putea să arăți, chiar uneori faci, spre exemplu, switch de pe ceea ce tu spui, spre exemplu, și pe exemplu, în special acolo unde tu spuneai despre expert, despre validation, de obicei asta se practică la Startup Weekend, dar în general asta este tipajul unei prezentări care se vrea fi văzut, a fi validat cu juriul, cu participanții, cu investorii, în care sunt aceste slide-uri despre care spui. Acolo este vorba de validation, poate să înțeleagă participanții, unii vorba despre market analysis, pentru că astea sunt exact punctele pe care le-au învățat participanții în timpul programului. Respectiv, astăzi, acest modul vine să compileze, să structureze tot ce ei știu, ce au, informații adunate, ce țin minte, ce nu țin minte, și să știi unde anume ei ajustează această informație, în special într-o prezentare de, practic, 10 slide-uri, 10, adică să urmărească ce obțin aceste 10 puncte. De asemenea, sunt curioasă să spui dacă tu atingi aspectul de structură, deci partea de fonturi, cât de plin să fie imaginea, câte caractere să practică. Asta e un alt aspect, adică cred că o să menționez despre asta, da?
Da, deci cu exemplu revenim după pauză și chiar cu asta și să începem, o să dezasamblăm una din prezentările mele care le-am făcut 2 ani în urmă la Startup Weekend, poate ați aminte. Și vis-a-vis de fonturi, cum să faci slide-uri și tot asta, desigur, tot asta vom vorbi și despre asta. Sunt foarte multe topicuri și care tu încă nu știi, le-am făcut ca surpriză despre ce o să vorbim. Ce se întâmplă după prezentare, și asta este ca tare una din cele mai importante lucruri, ce trebuie să faci după ce ai făcut un pitch reușit la o competiție. Și o să vorbim despre foarte multe nuanțe care le-am adunat în jurul acestor ani. Deci, luăm o pauză de 15 minute și după asta continuăm. Ok?
Ok. Bun. Da, cred că mai repede nu e posibil, pentru că acesta e...
Hai 10.
Ok. Bine, perfect. Pentru că este vorba despre live și ulterior lumea o să-l privească și nu cred că o să-l facem, o să-l tăiem. Și o să fie așa mai pentru ei. Ok, bun.
Ok, 10 minute și continuăm.
Perfect. În aceste 10 minute eu am să mă străduiesc, dar să fac, să vin aici cu descriere. Tu, Roman, ești scris.
Ok, super.
Da. Eu am să vin cu descriere despre programul Startup Academy încă o dată și reclamă mai pauza. O să scriu încă o dată cum are loc procesul, atât pentru participanții noștri care deja sunt în program, cât și în general cum este structurat acest program. Dacă pot eu să fac un... Ok, Roman, cred că pot să opresc prezentarea ta un pic. O clipă. Așa, da, perfect. Ok, deci este vorba despre programul care este aici. Are loc timp de 10 module pe care noi le-am structurat în formă de 10 ediții, 10 lecții, în care este combinat practică cu teorie și în special avem aceste module. Introducere în antreprenorial și în special care sunt gândirea în startup, metodologia startup, tool-uri și instrumente necesare pentru un antreprenor, diferența dintre un antreprenor de tip obișnuit și antreprenor de tip startup, cum se scalează ideile, cum se gândește la nivel global. Este vorba despre creștere liniară, că nu este vorba despre tip restaurant, tip de servicii care crește la 1, la 10, ok, adică câteva unități, și creștere exponențială atunci când vorbim despre diseminare ca un virus. Poate să fie, produsul poate fi utilizat de către un utilizator, 3, pe urmă acești utilizatori distribuie și produsul este utilizat de către 100, 200, 1000 și tot așa persoane. Un alt modul pe care îl avem este ideation și echipa, în special în care se lucrează pe partea de research. Foarte mult e necesar de determinat ce probleme, cu ce soluții venim. Adică nu facem startup de dragul startup-ului, dar într-adevăr înțelegem că avem o problemă existentă, că noi soluționăm într-adevăr ceva care doare, în special în contextul în care suntem acum cu COVID-19, toată comunicarea, deci dacă mai înainte să fii digital, să ai o platformă, să ai un tool, să ai niște cunoștințe tehnice, era un lucru. Acum deja este absolut o necesitate vitală și aceasta este vorba despre gândirea ca un startup, în care tu în orice moment trebuie să faci o nouă strategie, trebuie să te adaptezi, să faci modificări, să lucrezi în condiții foarte restrânse și să livrezi rapid. Ulterior este un modul care se numește Market and Competition Analysis, când noi înțelegem cum segmentăm piața, pe ce ne focusăm. Este vorba despre piața Moldova, este vorba despre Chișinău, este vorba despre regiuni, este vorba despre continent. Dacă cât mai specific, cu atât mai bine. Selectăm, după ce segmentăm geografic piața, înțelegem cum arată, creăm profilul persoanei care o să utilizeze produsul nostru și iarăși cu cât mai specific, cu atât mai bine, pentru a înțelege că noi nu ne adresăm la o piață internațională per general, dar ne adresăm la o anumită persoană. Noi înțelegem cum arată această persoană. Este vorba despre o mămică care stă acasă și îngrijește de copilul său, care urmărește anumite tool-uri și noi livrăm serviciu. Este vorba despre o persoană din business care are conexiune la digital, la diferite platforme, de la Facebook, LinkedIn și până la tool-uri mai avansate de project management. Ulterior, este după ce înțelegem cum arată persoana noastră, cine este utilizatorul nostru, căruia noi soluționăm această problemă, mergem la soluționarea, la identificarea modelului de business și înțelegem care este ciclul de la zero pentru a accesa produsul. Este vorba despre testare, validare cu piața, dacă e vorba despre un produs de medicină. Da? Evident că noi o să discutăm în primul rând cu experți medici, înțelegem cum funcționează, care este gândirea din spate, adică avem nevoie de un ghidaj foarte concret pe soluția pe care noi o prezentăm și începem a elabora pas cu pas care sunt etapele prin care trece utilizatorul. Astfel, desenăm ciclul de modelului de business. Ulterior, trecem prin facem strategie de marketing, adică noi înțelegem, avem un business model, da, este vorba despre un pachet care o să-l cumpere utilizatorul dat, pachetul dat conține serviciile și noi înțelegem. Deci, dintre utilizator și modelul meu de business trebuie să fie o relație. Această relație este relație de marketing. Marketing și vânzări, dar începem cu marketing în care înțelegem care sunt canalele prin care noi o să ajungem la el. Este vorba despre social media, este vorba dacă este B2C, de la business la client direct. Dacă este B2B, adică de la business-ul nostru la business-urile clienților, atunci abordăm anumite tool-uri business-uri related și mai departe procedem la vânzări, în care noi deja nu doar îi abordăm prin surse vizuale de marketing, dar intrăm în contact direct cu el. Și este vorba despre sunet, este vorba despre mail direct, este vorba despre diferite instrumente care sunt relatate mai mult de către trainerii noștri brazi, pe care o să-i arăt acum, la aceste module. Ulterior, noi după ce înțelegem care este modelul de business, cum vindem, cum promovăm, stabilim un plan de management între noi și echipă, între noi și client, între noi ca produs și alți actori implicați. Respectiv facem o schemă pe care o digitalizăm în oricare tool din project management și îl despărțim, structurăm pe pași, cine cu ce se ocupă, cine vede informația, unde se încarcă, cine și cum are acces la această informație și cum planul operațional poate fi replicat în momentul în care business-ul crește, în momentul în care de la 10 clienți ajungi la 100 de clienți la 1000 de clienți, evident că echipa trebuie să crească și atunci procesele, fiecare echipă trebuie să fie nu mai mult de 5 persoane, respectiv fiecare echipă trebuie să aibă același set de informații transmis foarte rapid în momentul în care faci hunting activ de oameni și ei, fiecare trebuie să știe foarte, adică knowledge transfer să fie foarte rapid, dar nu să începem a descoperi procese pe care noi nu le cunoaștem. Ulterior, prototipizarea, deci cum clientul vede produsul frumos, dar totul începem cu niște wireframe-uri foarte simple, pe care le testăm, le testăm, le arătăm la consumator sau noi până la urmă facem un produs simplu, nu ne avansăm în niște produse complexe, site-uri, platforme pe care ulterior trebuie schimbat și aici ajungem că avem un minimum viable product, un MVP. Ulterior facem, evident, ca orice business trebuie să fie profitabil, chiar dacă acesta este ONG sau chiar dacă este orice misiune caritabilă, până la urmă totul trebuie să înțelegem care este procesul de cash flow, care este procesul de finanțare, de unde vin bani, unde se duc banii, cum se gestionează ca să fie la maxim transparent și cum se contabilizează toate astea. În dependență de fiecare țară lucrurile diferă, dar overall sunt niște reguli foarte generale de structurarea unor bugete, de distribuirea acestor bugete pe intrări și ieșiri. Și ulterior, deci concluzia noastră se termină cu partea de pitching, ceea ce avem noi astăzi acum, practic, și Ronul Leacă ia o gură de aer. Este vorba despre pitching în care noi înțelegem tot ce s-a lucrat până acum, cum structurăm într-un prezentare uimitoare, foarte relevantă, cu informații scurte la temă, pentru ca să poată fi livrată timp de 1 minut, adică de obicei pitch-urile de 1 minut sunt cele mai complicate. Cu cât mai puțin timp, cu atât mai mult de lucru este. Și pentru a face un summary despre program, vreau încă o dată să mulțumesc trainerilor. Este vorba despre Traian Chivriga, care este founder la X2 Accelerator și are un background de entuziast și antreprenor care ajută alții, în special ajută foarte mult pe partea de business development și acceleration în startup-uri. Artur Gureu, care este președinte la Digicomnet, este o platformă internațională de comunicatori, de cei care sunt focusați în democrație și platforme de comunicare. În special, Artur, de asemenea, are background și experiență în dezvoltare de startup-uri, în special în companie pe care am managat-o Granat și acum este mai mult implicat în câteva produse, startup-uri, precum Rocket Academy, conferința Rocket și alte produse. Nicolae Ieșanu are background de vânzări de peste 12 ani. A lucrat în unul dintre cele mai promițătoare startup-uri de la noi. Este vorba despre SOR, o platformă de recrutare, dar deja activează pe cont propriu. Liza Gutu îmi pare una dintre cele mai powerful femei în startup și tânără, probabil, pe care eu o cunosc din Moldova, dar care gestionează partea de business development a unui startup global, Soltage, este un produs fintech. Ea se implică nu doar pe partea de fintech, dar foarte mult ajută pe toate solicitările noastre, practic, de implicare de dezvoltare a ecosistemului de startup-uri. Ana Chirița, pe lângă faptul că este coordonatorul TEC-ul, director strategic în cadrul asociației TIC, are un background extraordinar de fantastic în gestionarea unor proiecte naționale, de dezvoltarea care a revenit. Roman, poți să faci join?
Tehnici și Mări nu vă dă prea multă informație. Și acum...
Da, sper că n-am fost boring.
Tu nu poți fi... Mări, tu nu poți fi boring.
Ok.
Deci.
Mai departe, Roman.
Da, deci o să dau exemplu concret despre un startup care am pitchuit 2 ani în urmă. Este vorba de Vigo. Unii poate chiar cunosc acest startup care noi am făcut în cadrul Startup Weekend.
Foarte actual, apropo.
Da, foarte actual în contextul probleme de crize medicale, dar noi o să analizăm cum a fost prezentat acest startup și care a fost specificul pentru fiecare slide, de ce am făcut anume așa și nu așa, în condițiile evenimentului de față. Deci pentru cei care nu cunosc, Startup Weekend este un eveniment global care are loc în peste 150 de țări mari, corectează-mă dacă spun ceva greșit, și el durează un weekend întreg, unde se adună developer, designer, marketing guys și, desigur, persoane cu idei și încearcă să creeze o idee, să realizeze sau să testeze o idee de business în 54 de ore. Deci, noi atunci ne-am adunat și am făcut o echipă de 4 persoane și asta este rezultatul muncii noastre. Și, să fiu cinstit, noi atunci, Startup Weekend nu cere un elevator pitch, dar el există pentru că trebuie să dau exemplu pentru el. Deci, so I'll skip to English because the event itself is in English again, and all of the information, all of the content is in English. So let's get back there. So the elevator pitch for Vigo is quite simple. So Vigo is a digital personal healthcare companion that sits in your mobile phone. It helps people with chronic diseases track their health, and it addresses a market that is currently evaluated of $50 billion just in Europe. We already have some partnerships with medical facilities, and we're gonna go live in the next half year. So that would be the elevator pitch that I would tell you 2 years back. So you saw from that pitch that I specified who are we helping, what problem we are trying to solve, how we are doing it, how big is the market we're addressing, and I noted that we already have partnerships and we're gonna go live in half a year. So having that information in mind, you already know the key points of the startup. And if you're an investor that has a keen on medical startups, you would be interested most likely. Not sure, but if you know a medical investor, please let me know. So it has to be very on point, very specific without too many details. And try not to say a lot of information fast. Try to say less in a well-mannered pace, because this is where you actually get the most value, because people actually understand what you do. So this is the presentation deck of that startup weekend that helped us secure first place. So we called it Vigo.me. For those of you that are maybe interested, why it's called Vigo. So basically we took the word vigor, which means a healthy, strong person, and kind of modified it a bit. So we get from vigor, you get to Vigo. And we don't have a logo, we have the name, which basically functions as a logo, and you have our slogan, your personal healthcare companion. 4 words, very simple to understand. So this is what people see, clean. So I'm gonna talk about how you design slides in a startup competition a bit later, but we're gonna analyze it right here. So when you're making a pitch deck in a startup competition, for example, like a hackathon, what you should focus on is being as clean as possible, without any excess, without any colors that might not be pleasant for the eye. So try to keep it simple as possible. As you see here, white background, black letters, that's it. And some orange to make it like more fruitful. I would really love to find the video. Mary, if you could find, I would really be appreciative. If you could find that video from that startup weekend. And I actually wanted to perform this pitch live in front of you if we would be in one room, but we are where we are. So what I did here when I was presenting the problem, I told my story I told actually my story. So I'm actually, I have a heart disease. It's not something that I'm too worried about, but it is, I am aware of it starting from 18 years. And I presented my personal problem that it's really hard to keep track of all of the, of your health and doctor visits. I have like this thick of a pile of papers regarding just this, my problem. And it's kind of hard to keep it on you when you need it, or maybe when you visit the doctor. And this is something that a lot of people struggle with. And at this point, I made a very dramatic effect and threw that pile of papers on the ground, making a big noise, and it had a very good effect. So if you have theatrics, yes, Mary.
I just want to mention that we are organizing the biggest startup weekend global, and it will be next week, and everyone are welcome to join as a participant, as a doesn't matter what, because it will be huge. And
oh, sweet.
So,
okay, that's nice, sweet. Waiting more info on the events. So if you have theatrical background and you like creating a show and you feel comfortable on the stage, that's when you can experiment with not just telling the startup idea. That's where you can put in something interactive or something unusual that would create interest to your startup. So problem, I kept it very simple. As you see, this is an actual screenshot. Thank you, Ramona. She was one of the mentors of Startup Weekend 2018. And this is her actual also pile of papers that she keeps track of when going to local doctors. So problem is very simple, keeping track of your health and doctor visits. That's it. I don't show here any numbers because I do it later. So this is enough context for people. And I also create the emotional background because this is my personal story. So I show them that I know what I'm talking about. So this is not just a problem that I found out about. This is something I have been living for the last 10 years with. So I know specifically the details. So Startup Weekend has a very key point on validation. So so that was one of the key guidelines for the presentation. You have to show that this is an actual problem, and you should show how you validated this is a problem that people are interested in solving. So here's where I said, so in the past 54 hours, we conducted 60 plus live interviews. We received 20 emails of interest gathered from surveys, and we found out that 60% of people are not satisfied how they keep track of their healthcare. So we managed to contact 15 countries, and out of those 15 countries, 10 countries validated this problem. We have big countries like Russia, Ukraine, Brazil, and even Ireland has the problem of keeping track of doctor visits and the health information of patients with chronic diseases. So in this slide, we showed the scale, how big is the problem. And here I mentioned specifically, and this is just 15 countries we interviewed. So we're interested in what are the other countries gonna tell us about their situation of keeping track. So here is where we created that impact, where we showed how big it is, so people have an understanding. And here's where we present the solution. So here we used basically one for the problem work, one for the validation, and the second slide for the problem and validation. So it kind of worked in both ways, showing how big is the problem and showing and validation of that problem. So here's where we present the solution. And I say here, hello, meet Vigo. He's your personal healthcare companion. Vigo helps you keep track of all your doctor visits. He makes suggestions based on your health dynamic, and he notifies and plans your doctor visits. So look what I did here specifically on this slide. So first I show you a lovely face of your digital companion that looks nice. So the designer, Sasha Pleshko, made a lovely avatar logo and at the same time a character for our application. I'm not gonna show which character he was inspired on, because that will be maybe probably trademark infringement, but as long as I don't tell it, it's not that obvious maybe. And here is where I specifically say how it helps you or how it helps people with chronic diseases. And what you should address here, I don't show all of the stuff at the same time. I show them step by step, because if you show too much information from the start, the people's first inclination to do when they see a lot of text is read it. You don't want them doing this because you want their attention on you, because you're the main source of information and the slides are there to help you present that information, not the other way around. So you want, even if you have a lot of text, you show it step by step. So you show point number 1, point number 2, and point number 3. That's it. Then I talk about the target audience. So we say specifically that our early adopters are people between 24 and 40 years old. They are heavy planners because they're people that like to plan ahead, and they have a chronic disease. So these are the prerequisites to our target audience. We specify who we want to address, who we did the research on. And then we say that the next adopters are future and current mothers, because they're also people that really want to keep track of their health. So here you have a representation how you can show your target audience. Again, keep in mind, I first showed one part of the target audience, then the other. Don't try to show it once at a time, because otherwise, again, people will start reading it and they will not have context to read this information. So here's where I make the big problem again and show how big is the market. Here's where I say, did you know that 1/3 of all people in the age group I told you have a chronic disease in Europe? And that's equal to 250 million people that have a chronic disease right now that they have to take care of. So here I show the impact. So here I show the market size, and it's a very big number. And that's just Europe. So here's where we show our research. So we found out that about 60,000 people in Moldova are our potential users, not people that have a chronic disease. No, they fall within this early adopters region. So I tried to specify that they are specifically from our target group. We have somewhere from 18 to 54 million potential users just from those countries that we found that have this problem. And depending on which market you're addressing, on what type of the market you're working with, you have something between $9 to $50 billion. So what I would do right now different, I would change this 8.9 to a 9 because it's a simpler number to consume for the audience. So you want to show how big of a market you're addressing, because then people understand how money can be made on this project. So this is where we present our business model. So we have a SaaS business model, software as a subscription. It's pretty clear that we are business to consumer, and I even tell that on this slide that we're a B2C product. So maybe you don't even need to mention, because as the less you have information on your slide, the better it is. Oh, sorry. So here I have the notion that we have a free account that you can track up to 2 doctors for free. And then you have the monthly subscription that is equal to €5. And you can track unlimited doctors. I would maybe make this presentation even better now, since I already know it so well. But you must know that this presentation was done in a span of like 2 or 3 hours tops. When we worked 2 days before that, a lot of time. So at startup weekends, you don't try to make it perfect, you try to make it good enough. So yeah, I know this presentation can be done better, but this is what we got in that limited time span we had. And yes, that's a recommendation I have for you. Don't try to make it perfect, try to make it good enough, because you do not have the time for perfect. Then we specify how we're going to grow as a business. That was also one of the parts in terms of how judges would look at our ideas. They specified they wanted to know how this startup would grow, what is the potential to maybe expand to other business models or revenue streams. So this is where we specify that in the future we could go into big data for research centers, so we could sell anonymized data to them. We could make affiliate marketing and sales, and we could provide B2B services integrations to private hospitals and clinics. So pretty self-explanatory. And again, as you see, I present the information in bits, 1, 2, 3. So I explain each point. Competitors, so to be honest, we were kind of surprised that there are not that many direct competitors. There were some few, but we tried to compare ourselves on the key factors that we considered most important. So when you talk about mobile applications, one of the key factors for any mobile application is user experience and user interface importance. If your application is very hard to use on a mobile phone, it's deleted in 3 seconds. That's it. You don't get a second chance. So we really focused in our prototype, so it has a very good user experience. So it's easy to use, and it provides maximum value to the end user. So we put our application on the scale, and that's why we are here on the top corner where you have the best value for the best UX, and you have the competitors here somewhere in the middle or lower. So that's how you can show yourself as the better application on the market. Sometimes you can use tables to show that you have very specific features that others don't. But the problem with them, they show too much information. So if you really want to show a table, try to take up to 3 to 4 startups, competitors, and only 3 comparison points. That's it, just 3. Because if you take more, then it will be really hard to consume that slide for the audience. If you have 7-minute presentation, maybe you can put a bigger table, but I would really try to avoid it, just because you have in one day, in one session, up to 10 to 15 startups presenting, and you kind of get lost in all of that information. So as you already see, the main theme of pitch decks and pitch presentation, keep as simple as possible. Then you have the go-to-market strategy. So we had a very non-trivial startup idea. So we actually had a lot of room to work with in terms of how we could go to the market. So we told that we're going to use influencer marketing with doctors, because we have already, if you don't know, there's Dr. Mike on YouTube, amazing doctor. I follow his YouTube channel, and he's very good to promote some healthcare products that somehow benefit. But if he would take, for example, our idea, he would first test it and then say if he's comfortable promoting it or not. So you have to be aware of that. So influencer marketing is a thing, if you don't know. So try leveraging it if it works your startup. Then we would be present on online events on health, because they're relevant, so we can address our target audience there and show that it's so easy to track your health right now, and do branded sponsorships on conferences. This one was like, if I do a retrospective, this was kind of a stretch, but it was still a good go-to-market strategy. But this one requires so much money. So I'd actually maybe delete it right now because it's too expensive for a startup. So maybe I would heavily go with this, maybe go a little bit of this, and maybe even delete the branded sponsorship conferences, because now I reflect on it and I see that it's not as good as it was back then. Again, step-by-step presentation. So the team, yeah, I know I told you try to make a unified picture. The problem was that on the second day of the startup competition, we were kind of actually looking fresh-ish. Some people actually slept at the venue. so they didn't look as fresh. And we were very limited on time. So we just took the 4 photos that we had, strapped them in, and that's it. So when I talked about the team, I just mentioned that we have an actual patient on the team that's very familiar with the problem. We have amazing UX UI designer that can make and provide that level of convenience of using a mobile app. And we have 2 senior iOS developers on the team, so we can deliver the MVP on iOS because we consider that a more, let's say, audience that has more money. Let's make it straightforward. So that's what I said on the team. Then I showed off some advisors that we had at that point on the project. And the moneymaker was announcing that we had partnership agreements with 2 companies. They were actual partnership, like letters of interest, as I told you previously. They were actually signed by both of these companies. And they kind of helped us secure the win on the startup weekend. Some of you will ask, what are we doing currently on this with this product? We actually froze it, as most startups do. But we actually are considering starting to work on it somewhere in the Q3, Q4 of this year, because after this whole pandemic thing happened, healthcare startups are going to be a very big thing. People are going to start taking more care after their health. So our startup is actually going to be relevant in this upcoming era. I'm really not that afraid of sharing this startup idea with you, because if you do it better, I'm actually going to be happy, because maybe I'm going to be even your user. But we have our own ideas on this startup. The demos I'm going to show you next are going to be very different from the ideas we have currently. So I'm kind of comfortable showing you this presentation anyways. And after this, we showed the demo. We showed the calendar for events. We specified that we would have Google Calendar integrations and integrations with iPhone calendar, whatever it's called, iCall, I think. There would be a timeline that would show you what doctors you visited and what doctors you're gonna visit. And then you had the screen itself with the with your personal healthcare companion that would show the conversation. So basically, we took the concept of the chatbot, and took it to another level. So you can actually store information in any way in the application. You could store it as a photo that you got, an attachment, an audio recording of the session while talking with the doctor, write a fast summary, maybe use speech to text functions, and the doctor would actually show you, and Vigo would actually make a recommendation to you and say that you made a good thing and ask you if you want to make another appointment. So the project would actually go further and understand what are you doing as a patient, gather data on your activity, how you feel, and it would analyze the data to make your recommendation. Maybe you should go to this doctor, and a bunch of other features that actually were mentioned back then, but are not important right now. So you would be asked, and I think you would already have an idea in mind, what's the point of creating a demo if you show just screenshots or videos? Well, there is a thing. So the judges can verify and approach you before the presentation, or the mentors can approach you before the presentation and ask you to show what you have done. So if you don't have a presentation if you don't have a demo of your product, well, basically they can invalidate your participation because you have nothing. Maybe it's enough to have screenshot mockups like this, but it's best that you have both the mockups and some sort of version of your application, because in this way you actually show that you are competent to do this application. So do you have, and of course, leave some contact information on your last slide because that is convenient. Okay, do you have any questions while I switch to the other presentation? Okay, no questions for now, so let's continue. So that was, so we, as a summary, we went through all of the slides that you should have on your presentation. Most of the slides that we had here, we had in the presentation I showed you. Now let's get into the specifics, how you can deliver a good presentation and what you should be aware of when you do it. So I have a separate like training session on how you can be a good speaker, the basics, because I'm a strong believer that if you don't know the basics, there is no point into getting into the hard stuff, like how you should use your hands in the air to demonstrate different forms and stuff like this. So that is good to be able to know how to use, but that is irrelevant if you don't know the basics of being a good speaker. So here I have even a more compressed version of that thing, because we want to focus on the pitching itself and the pitch presentation. But here, what are my main advices? Smile. You can't understand how important it is to smile on the stage, because smile gives you that connection with the audience. Even if you have a smile like this, you should still smile. I can tell you even one better. So when I entered the stage and I was talking about the problem that if you don't schedule on time, this is what can happen. And I opened my mouth and pointed at the missing tooth, because I already was missing that tooth back then. So you have to smile in any given situation, because that helps you have a connection with your audience. If you are entering the stage with a sour, as I would say, a resting bitch face, something like this, and you start talking and you have no emotion, then the audience will have a very big problem connecting with you. So first and most important thing that you always should keep in mind is smiling, even if you're missing a tooth, because still the audience will have a good laugh. Next is taking control. So this is a very specific thing. So there are some questions I see in the chat. I will answer them in a couple of moments, but first I want to finish with some points here. So you, as a presenter, have to be in control of all of the things that are related to your presentation. And most important stuff is you have to control the presentation you're presenting. Don't give the presentation to somebody else to make it for you. You have to do, if you're the person presenting, you should be the one making it. Also, if you're the one presenting it and you're the person that made it, you have to be initiative and test it on the screen that you're going to be presenting beforehand. And also you have to test the equipment that you're going to be using before presenting. That includes the microphone, the pointer to change slides, and any other stuff that you're going to use. So you have to have control over the environment and the resources you have when you're presenting something. Because if you don't have that, you might have a problem. This is what people must see when you go on stage. I have seen it a lot of the times that people kind of try to inhibit their passion and emotions on stage. That is the wrong thing to do, actually. And that is my personal opinion. When you're on stage and you're presenting a very important product, of course, you have to balance it out, but still you must show the passion, love that you have for this product. If you don't show that, I have, as an audience member or as an investor, I have very little credibility that you actually care about this product. You actually, I maybe not trust you on how important is the problem that you're trying to solve. So if you're presenting something, show that passion, show much how you care. Of course, there's a reasonable amount of passion and energy and emotion that you show on stage, but show it in any way possible. Because then you build, again, that trust with the audience. So they're going to trust you that you're actually doing a great job. It's something important to work with. So show it on stage. And something that is commonly seen on stage, people, for some reason, when they go on stage, they forget that they're an expertise developer with 10 years of experience. They're a project manager or product owner that has amazing experience in building different stuff. Or they're just a person with a great idea and a very important cause to solve. So whenever you're on stage, you always have to remember that you are the expert on that stage at that specific moment. So do not go into the understanding that you should be intimidated in any way. You are there to present your knowledge. You're there to present your idea, and you care about it, and you love it, and you are the expert on that idea. So show expertise and confidence when you're on stage and presenting that idea. So what do you do when you can't, when you are short on breath and you have a voice? So that's part of the preparation part. I have an answer for this question in the later slides, so I'm going to answer it a bit later. So proper slides. As you saw the presentation, my presentation that I showed you, it has to be simple. The simpler it is, the better it is, and it will work for you as much as that. So the basic idea of any slides, and we're talking specifically about the stuff that people see on the screen, should be as simple as possible. Here are the basic guidelines. There are two types of slides. One are the pretty slides that have too much information on them, and it's very easy to get lost in them. And I think you already are if you're looking at this. And they're just the simple slides that work. I do love a good presentation. I do love it, but I don't feel that they are appropriate on a pitch presentation because you have to squeeze in so much information in just 5 or even 3 minutes. So here's the situation when you had to cut everything unnecessary. I mean, everything. So I will give you a very simple example. So this is what most people do, not specifically when they're presenting a pitch presentation, but generally with presentations when you have a person that is presenting and supporting slides. So what usually people do, they put in a bunch of text here. So let's count. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 words on the slide. So they tell us that there's a situation, we need 10 million euros and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so how we can do it better? So we can actually say 10 million euros for damages. And the speaker can say the other part of the information that because of the critical situation that appeared in the African region, we require 10 million euros for damages to help the local population. That also works, but we can do even better and just write the number because that's the important part. That's the key thing that people should be looking at. That's what the thing that they should remember for your presentation. That's how much money we need to help somebody in Africa. So you remember the slides in my presentation. I used it a couple of times. So there was that 1/3, 250 million, because it's very simple to remember and to show how big of an issue it is. So whenever you're making slides, do it like this. Try to make it as simple as possible. And then people will be able to easily consume whatever you're saying. Fonts, very short. They should be easy to read. So try to use fonts that are easy to read from any distance on any type of screen. I try to write with all caps because the font becomes more readable. Sometimes you can write in lowercase letters when you have too much text, because if you have everything caps and all of this would be written in big font in caps, it would not be that easy to read. So you see here I don't have caps, here I have just one word to highlight the point I'm talking about. So this is where, so I have a very simple recommendation. Also, be careful on using fonts that are license free. So use Google fonts because you don't have to pay for them. So nobody will later on sue you for infringing a trademark or whatever. Also, it's better to use some standard font because they should be supported by the computer you're gonna put the presentation on. Sometimes what happens, you use a very fancy, rarely seen font, and you put it on the laptop that's gonna present, and that laptop doesn't have that font supporting it, so it will just use any random font, and you will just end up with a scramble of a presentation. Font size, well, it's actually pretty simple. It's gotta be big enough. Here is what it's kind of tricky because you will get in different situations. And for example, if we take specifically TechWell, so we have multiple rooms with multiple projectors, TVs, and even the big screen in the Imaginarium room. So here you have to try and understand where you're going to present and try to adapt the font that it will look nice enough on that screen. So it looks big enough and comfortable to read enough. I already told it this is a recurring theme. Keep it simple. I will be repeating this thing a couple of more times because I can't stress it enough how often people try to complicate a presentation. The presentation should be simple. The presentation should be a helper for you presenting a point. That's it. It shouldn't be the main thing that people are looking on. It should be like a guide through a vast amount of information, so people know where they currently are. So try to keep it as simple as possible. So this is a tricky recommendation because you saw that in my presentation for video, I used more than 6 words on a slide, and the basic recommendation is to use 6 words on a slide. So try to follow this rule as much as possible. I would actually even say try to use only 1 or 2 words on a slide, but you can't apply this rule to every type of slide. So you have to have that wiggle room. So general recommendation, try keep text to a minimum, but at the same time, if you need to put some text, put it there, but don't overexceed. Bullet points. So you see that they appear one by one. Never show immediately 3 bullet points because the urge for the human brain is to read any text that's put in front of them. So if you're putting text in front of them and you want to put a lot of text, show them one by one. And then you have a very good presentation, even if it has a lot of text on one slide. 80% of all people are visuals. So whenever you're presenting, it's very important to use images for your presentations because people can more easily consume them. If you can present any idea of your presentation in front of an image, you should show it as an image. Also, I do recommend using icons because they're very also visual parts and they're easily to visualize some important things. For example, money. If you need, for example, a seed investment of $10,000, you put a money bag, 10,000, and the currency you want it in. So it's kind of easy to understand with icons what you can do. This is very often asked questions. So do I need a designer to make a good presentation? My usual answer would be no, because I kind of rarely have the time to ask a designer to make a presentation for me. And even if I ask him to do it, what usually happens, I make the presentation, I put the content on the slides, I give them the presentation, and I tell them specifically, you cannot alter any text or images on the slides. You cannot change the positions of any slides or materials on them. You can only just adjust it as a style and anything else. Why is that? Because I'm the person that made that presentation. I'm the person that's going to be presenting that presentation. So I should be sure on what I'm presenting. And also, if you're making a presentation, you have an idea behind it. So if you have slide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a specific order, that's how you want it, and you want it for a specific reason. So if a designer wants to switch slides for whatever reason, that's wrong. So you have to be very specific. Do not change anything except for the styling. So that's my take on designers. And also, for making a presentation like this, you don't need a designer. You just need some practical experience, because if you need an extra person to work on something, that's extra time, and that's something you usually don't have the luxury to work with. So what else? So what else do you need to know when you make pitch presentations? Well, you have to experiment. So you cannot become a good presenter of pitches if you don't experiment, try new techniques, try new methodologies and stuff like that. So you always have to continuously experiment with your presentation style, with your presentation decks. You go to one competition, you try to do something new. You go to the other competition, you again try something new in small doses, because it's a controllable thing. Don't try to over experiment, because otherwise it can blow up in your face and you will not get anything from it. So be moderate with experimentation. Rehearse out loud. If you're a beginner, this is your go-to thing to any presentation. I usually, if I'm participating in a competition, I usually rehearse my pitch presentation at least 20 times. So you can imagine how much time investment that is, and that is for a very good reason. You can feel comfortable presenting a pitch presentation only if you know it's very good. So you take the presentation, you go into a room, and basically for 2 straight hours, you rehearse that presentation until you're comfortable with it. And basically, if somebody asks you to do it from the fly, you're ready to do it in any given time. So rehearsing is the key thing in getting better as a presenter for your product. Always ask for feedback. People really love to give you opinions of everything, on whatever you throw at them. So ask your mom, ask your friends, ask your colleagues from work, ask people maybe even from other teams, and of course mentors. If you're a startup competition, there's always a mentor or more at a presentation. So you should show them the presentation, pitch to them, and ask for feedback. Ask them, was it clear enough? Was it good enough? What did you understand? If you cover all of that, then you're all good and set, so you can actually present. This is my take on couple presentations. I have done 2 of them. I did not like the experience. You have to, at startup competitions, you usually don't have that time to rehearse a presentation with somebody else. And if one of you messes up, then basically it's really hard to come back from that. And that's what was my experience. So I really don't recommend couple presentations, only if you have done it with the other person a couple of times, you feel comfortable and you rehearsed it. So only then and only then I would maybe take a couple presentations, but my usual take, don't do them. Just one person presents, that's very simple and much harder to mess up. So we're gonna take this next a couple of more slides from here, and we're gonna take a small break of 10 minutes, and we're gonna finish off after that. So let's go into the myths and then have a break. So pitching is a talent. No, it's not. It takes hard work. It takes a lot of experience. It takes a lot of practicing. I feel comfortable pitching only after I pitch like 5 times or 10 times on the stage. So this is not a talent. This is a skill. If you want to be good at it, you have to train it. You can pitch not only products, you can try pitching other stuff. You can try pitching ideas at your workplace. So if you have an opportunity to pitch something, try doing it. Or you could do it as an exercise inside of your company or inside of your team. Take any product and try to pitch it. That's a very good exercise to do. As I told you, there's no such thing as a universal deck. So the idea of making one presentation that works for everywhere is a myth. Maybe it is present in a very small area where you are a startup that has 5 years, but at that point, it's hardly to call you a startup. You're a company at that moment. So you will never have at the beginning a pitch deck that's not going to change. Each time with new challenge, with new competitions, it's going to change. My product is great. So, you know, there's a very interesting saying. It's called, you must be able to kill your babies. So this is a healthy take on your ideas. If you have an idea, it may be great, but it may not. And most of the time, it's not as great as you think it is. So you should always be very realistic about your idea. You should always understand that it may be not the best idea on the market. So if somebody's giving you constructive feedback and you feel that it's not, you should still try to listen to that person and understand where is that feedback coming from. Because having the mindset that your product is great is maybe good, but it's only good to a very small extent. Because if you have that mindset, most probably you're not going to grow as a company and you're not going to grow as a product. Okay, and this is where we have a 5 to 7 minute break. So I can have a break and I have energy to finish the presentation. And Mary, we will come back in 5 to 7 minutes.
Așa. Mersi, Roman. Mersi că, iată, încercăm acest format de prezentare pentru participanții noștri din Startup Academy. Așa. Ce eu am vrut să menționez despre faptul că este Startup Weekend, este vorba despre o mișcare globală, Startup Weekend Global. Dar, de fapt, sunt două mișcare. Vorba despre The Global Hack. Este un ton organizat de către Garaj 48. A fost unul din primele hackatoane organizate chiar în momentul în care s-a anunțat criza și faptul că toți stau acasă. Ei au venit cu un hackathon, ulterior, inclusiv și noi am organizat hackathonul Hack the Virus împreună cu grupul de inițiativă C19.media, în care puteți să vedeți și acum care sunt ideile, platformele, produsele care au fost propuse pentru a cumva combate criza creată de coronavirus. Acum însă toți cei care au participat în hackatoane se vor alinia pentru a participa în The Global Hack. Sunt niște premii extraordinare de la Comisia Europeană, nu știu cât, un fond foarte mare și foarte mulți actori internaționali, deci premii pe măsură. Un alt anunț este faptul că săptămâna viitoare avem Startup Weekend, nu săptămâna următoare, dar mai viitoare, deci perioada 24-26 aprilie. Organizăm Startup Weekend Global. Este vorba despre prima dată când vom apărea online cu Startup Weekend. Va fi foarte interesant pentru că avem rețeaua de organizatori este mai conectată ca niciodată. Sunt în spate, sunt niște pregătirile merg în toi, foarte, foarte interesant. Și o să funcționeze foarte interactiv, facilitatorul un facilitator sau doi o să vedem, unul cred, o să ducă foarte interesant în mod online. Platforma pe care o să discutăm de asemenea o să fie interesant, toate materialele sunt din partea Techstars. De asemenea, câștigătorii, deci din toate peste 70 de țări participante în program în cadrul Techstars Startup Weekend, o să fie aproximativ 20 de echipe selectate. Adică dacă cineva ia locul întâi în Startup Weekend Moldova, asta nu înseamnă neapărat că o să fie printre câștigători, dar din toate echipele câștigătoare vor fi selectate 20 de produse care vor trece prin bootcamp-ul Techstars și vor beneficia de cunoștințe, mentorat, matching și alte facilități de la Techstars. Respectiv, fiți cu ochii pe noi, curând lansăm evenimentul și neapărat participați, pentru că va fi o experiență care, pe urmă, este un exemplu pentru a replica produsul, pentru un start, pentru cei care vor să meargă repede și timp de nu timp să facă un produs, dar cumva totul este legat de soluționarea sau a venit cu soluții în contextul COVID, contextul coronavirus. Și anume, deci aici poate fi oricare tip de soluție, nu neapărat obligatoriu să fie din medicină, poate fi educație, poate fi legal, nu știu, formalizarea documentelor, pentru că acum o groază de documente o să fie online, educație părinții și elevii stau acasă, gândiți-vă în acest sens. Alt aspect poate fi propriu-zis, domeniul life science, oamenii acum o să gândească foarte, foarte, să fiu atent la ce mănâncă, cum mănâncă, ca să aibă grijă că imunitatea lor este foarte protejată, adică nu știu dacă o să mai fie fast food-urile așa de bine întrebuințate, în orice caz. Ideea e că chiar dacă criza o să treacă, chiar dacă noi o să revenim măcar și mâine la lucru, lucrurile și viața noastră nu o să mai fie aceeași. Oricum, multe schimbări economice au loc și o să urmeze, respectiv politici diferite. Respectiv, noi deja suntem pe digital, adică vrei, nu vrei, toată lumea este familiarizată cum lucrează tehnologiile și urmează doar să ne adaptăm și să readaptăm business-urile în care activăm. Asta este posibil pentru că, pe lângă cei că foarte multe industrii au diferit, precum hotelele, restaurantele, zicem, călătoriile, diferite activități de entertainment, concerte, da? Foarte multe alte oportunități vin în schimb, gen ieșiri online, vizite la, să zicem, expoziții, muzee, călătorii virtuale sau chiar și entertainment în virtual reality, jocuri. Deci, important să înțelegem cum se poate de readaptat potențialul pe care îl avem, nu nici de încercat să inventăm racheta în timp ce o să fim foarte, adică o să întârziem foarte mult cu trendurile, adaptăm cunoștințele și ceea ce noi putem și începem a discuta cu oamenii unde se poate de făcut shift. Sunt extraordinar de multe tool-uri, platforme de matching, platforme care înlocuiesc întâlnirile fizice și potențial extraordinar de cursuri online gratuite. Departe, Roman, welcome back!
Bucuros să revin. Tu ai finisat sau mai ai nevoie de un minut?
Da, asta e tot.
Ok, super. Taman, am revenit? Ok, și să ne ducem în ultima parte a prezentării noastre. Sorry. Getting back to English. So this will be the part where I tell you some very interesting and key knowledge that you can use to leverage and make your chances a bit better and bigger when you're presenting a pitch presentation, and to make it either win, either be well more understood compared to other startups. So let's see what's under the hood of making presentations. So this is the part where somebody asked, how do you feel comfortable on the stage? How you have a confident voice and stuff like that? Where the first thing you can do a power position. Basically, a power position is a state of the body. So this is one of the power positions, of course, called the Wonder Woman for obvious reasons. So if you stay in this position for 2 minutes, your testosterone levels are going to rise and you're going to feel much more powerful and confident if you do this exercise. This was something that was demonstrated by scientific studies, that if you stay in a power position for 3 to 4 minutes, you will have more confidence because of the testosterone that's rising, and people will have a higher level of trust in you. So before the presentation, find a room or go to the bathroom, whatever you feel comfortable doing this, get into a power position for 3 minutes, and you will get energized with higher level of testosterone. So, next thing. So asking questions, that's a very tricky thing to do on stage. So making the presentation is the first part. Asking 2 questions is the second part that you have to also gain mastery with. So here, what are the key things you should know about? If you're presenting on the stage, you should be, first of all, prepared for any given question. What I usually do before a presentation, and I know specifically what are my flaws, downsides, or things that we didn't cover, I have a list of all of them. And I prepare a very good answer for them. Why we didn't address it, why it's not covered, or other stuff. So you must have an answer for this. If you get a technical question that you cannot respond, but you know for sure that somebody else from your team can respond, and you know, and you rehearsed with them how to respond to a question like this, you can give and tell, oh, thank you for the question. That's a very good question, but it's only possible for my colleague to answer. And I will give him the word to answering very fast to this question. So the key strategy to answering questions in a startup competition or pitch presentation, you want to answer as many questions as you can with very short answers. Because the more questions you can answer given by the judges, the more credibility you will have from the judges. So if you get a question, what a lot of people with less experience, what they do, they try to explain it very detailed. Don't do that. Nobody cares about it that much. Try to give a simple answer for any given question. If it's a complicated answer for any reason, tell them, thank you for the question. Oh, that's one other thing. You should always thank for the question, even if it's a bad question. It's like a good thing to win over people. Thank you for the question. I have an answer for this, but it's actually very complicated. So the short answer would be this, and you answer it. And then you say, but I would really want to go into specific. So we could take it after the presentation. We could take it over coffee in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So you kind of say, I want to respond to it, but I would rather do it later because it has too many details. Also coming back to the teammates. So what can happen is you should always instruct your teammates that if you give them the word to respond to a question, it should be very short. And you should always know who is the capable person to respond to a question. It's very good if you can do it to most of the questions, but if it's a technical question and you're the CEO, it's best that the technical guy responds to it. Or you can say that you can have a chat to the person, thank you for the question. You can have a chat with my CEO or CTO over coffee, because I know for a fact that it's a very complicated question. There is an answer for it, but it would require some time for it that we don't have right now. Another very good strategy to not respond to a question, and if you don't want, is to say about the NDA. So for example, somebody is asking you, what are your numbers? How many clients? What's the revenue flow right now? And most of the times, information like this is trademark specific. So this is insider company information. So what you do in these cases, and you don't want to open that information up, and most of the times you don't, you say, thank you for the great question. I would love to answer this after we sign an NDA. So NDA is non-disclosure agreement, for those of you who never saw this terminology. So this is where you say, I'm open to say my numbers, but not from the stage, because this is not public information. So if this is a question from an investor, this is very normal for them to understand your response, and it's very okay. Also, if you have some patented technology, some technological know-how, this is also a very good way to answer with the NDA clause. So if you see a person that's asking you this question and he's a potential investor, you could always say, I'm open to discuss this question with you after signing an NDA. Or again, if it's an investor, there's a very common question: how much equity you're willing to give of your company for $100,000? For example, that's a supposable question and a supposable sum. So what you never do on stage is answer that question, because that puts you in a very tight spot in negotiations if you are actually gonna talk with that investor about investing in your company. You should always answer this question very openly with a smile on the face, of course, and say to them, thank you for the great question. I would actually want to discuss that in private over coffee or lunch today or in the evening. So let's have a chat. So never answer that question, because if you do answer it, you kind of lose all the leverage in negotiations, because, oh, but you said on stage that you're going to give me 50% of your company. Why are you backing out from that? So I can't trust you. So never answer that question from the stage. Never, ever. So it takes time to figure it out, but these are the main things. So if you answer questions, answer them very short, concise. Don't give too many details because nobody cares about them. If somebody else from the team has to respond to that question, inform them how they must respond to questions. If you see that they're taking too long, cut them out. Again, time is very valuable in the session. You want to respond to as many questions as you can. Have a list of the questions that might feel uncomfortable, so you have a prepared answer for them. And practice. Try to practice. Oh, again, never say how much equity of the company you're willing to give for a specific sum of money from the stage. Okay, let's continue. So this is so I usually show it in front of the audience how I usually do it. But the basic idea is that in a startup competition, you don't actually have the time to remember what did you write on the slide. Maybe you finished the presentation 15 minutes before presenting it, and you actually don't know it that good. So that's completely fine. So here's a way how you can cheat it. So there, basically, imagine that wall is my screen. So what you would do in this situation, there are two very simple tricks how you can actually look at the slide and make it seem plausible. The best scenario, of course, if you have a laptop in front of you with the slide that you're currently showing, that's a perfect scenario, but this is not usually the case. So let's imagine a situation. I have no laptop in front of me to see what slide I'm showing right now, and that wall is my screen. So so option number one, what you can do is when you say, for example, the validation numbers in my presentation, the 60,000 users in like the market, 60,000 users in Moldova, 54 million people, whatever, and $50 billion market size in euros. So what happens is you do it like this. So as we look at the validation slides, we can clearly see that we have 60,000 users in Moldova, 250 million users, potential users in Europe, and $50 billion of euros in market size. So you see what I did there? I basically used the look at this technique to actually look at the slide. So nobody can feel it actually if you use that specific phrasing. So if you look at this slide, this is where you kind of say that the information of the slide is really important, so that I want you to look at it. And at the same time, you're actually looking at it and reading from the slide. You can't use it for all of the slides because obviously people are going to see that you're kind of tricking them. But for the slides where you have the most important information, that's where you use it. And the second option you can do is when you are, so let's imagine this is the screen. So usually the presenter is in the middle. So what do you want to do? You want to be on one side or the other side of the screen so you can look parallel to that screen, and with your side vision, have a peek on the slide. That's a more hard thing to do, but with practice, you actually can achieve it in a specific amount of time. So that's also an option of how you can peek on the slides if you don't remember all of them. This is something that nobody tells you openly, but you must always know the rules of any competition. And if you know the rules, you can always bend them to your will. So it's not necessarily called cheating. I call it more bending the rules, because if something is not specified in the rule book that you cannot do, then you can do it. If somebody tells you that that's against the rules, well, you can contrary them. Well, it's not in the rules, so I can do it. For example, I knew for a fact that I would be breaking some rules, but I was a good sport in the competition side. So I asked the moderator of the startup weekend 2018. So the rule was not specified, but I knew about it because of other competitions I participated in. The rule was you cannot speak with the judges about your startup before the judging. That meaning before the day when you have to actually present. So you could not do this. If you would do that, you would get disqualified. So that was the rule that was not stated openly, but I knew about it. So if I broke it, I would actually not be breaking the rules because I was not notified that it is a rule. But I asked the moderator, facilitator of that event, and I asked him, could I do it? He said, no, you can't. Thank you for noting this. I will tell this to everyone right now. So I would be really in the clear if I did it because nobody told me about it. But you can always bend the rules if you know them. So try to know the rules of any competition so you can see where you can get an advantage or not. This is a very famous quote from a song I love a lot. It's Queen, don't stop me now. So it relates to the idea that sometimes most of the times you have a person that is keeping track of the time when you have to be stopped and there's a buzzer or anything. Sometimes, very little sometimes, something fails and they don't stop you. So if you're given extra time on the stage, use it. Don't stop, even if you know that you are done. Don't stop, use that time to your leverage however you can. If you can say more good stuff about your presentation, product, company, whatever, use it. Because nobody's actually gonna penalize you for that because, well, I wasn't informed that the time stopped, so whatever. So use that extra time if you're given, because even 30 seconds in a pitch presentation that is only 5 minutes can be a lot to make a difference in the eyes of the judges. Backup slides. So that's an interesting thing that you have to be aware of. So you have the pitch presentation that's, let's say, 5 minutes, and then you have the Q&A that's 3 minutes. So, and the rules say that you have to use 12 slides to present your presentation of your product. You follow those guidelines. Your presentation pitch is only 12 slides, but nobody says that you cannot have backup slides in your presentation. What you can show on the backup slides is usually, if you're searching for an investment, you say how much you want it and what are you going to use it for. Critical milestones for your products, for your product development. For example, half a year, we're gonna have 100 clients. 1 year, we're gonna have 1,000 clients. In 2 years, we're gonna go to Asia. 1 second. Oh, I think I didn't unpause my presentation. That's screen sharing. Mary, can you confirm, please, that I showed the previous slides? This webinar thing is a new thing. So I will throw in the presentation slides into the email list so Mary can share with you the presentation deck with all of the stuff I told you about. So don't be afraid that you're not gonna maybe lose some information. You can always keep it as a fast note what you should and should not do. So continuing on, live demo. We already talked about it. I'm gonna still mention what again. Never, ever make a live demo on stage because it most probably will crash. The Murphy's Law, if you know, there's like a thing called the Murphy Law, and the Murphy Law dictates if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. So always take that as a given and don't ever do live demos. Pictures, videos. So try to skip animations. I actually will show you how I do bullet point slides here. So what I usually make the end slide and then I just copy and remove the information on the slides. So at the end, I kind of have the animation thing of words appearing. So this is my technique because I have gotten into situations where we had to transfer our presentation into a PDF where you don't have animations. And then you're basically screwed up and you have to edit your presentation. So what I do, if I need to show bullet points, I take extra slides and just delete the information and show the appearance of a bullet point thing. So getting back to the slides thing. So I do not recommend using videos in your presentations. If you're showing a demo, try to make a video without sound, because if you want to put in a video, or a video with sound, you should always test it. And that's the last point of recommendation. Always test your presentation, especially if it has a video and sound into it. I sometimes use videos, but I never try to use sounds in pitch presentations, because if something goes wrong, you lost. So try to use only images. If you really need it, use videos, but without sound. And if you go for the risk and use it, sound, test it extensively so you're sure it's going to work properly. Here, I will not stop too much on it. I will just give you as a slide here that you can watch later as a video. But the intrinsic idea of this video, it tells you in 3 minutes how you should behave and treat differently your state on the stage. So if you think that you're nervous, try to imagine that you're actually excited to give a presentation. So I will leave this video to the speaker I love so much. His name is Simon Sinek. He is a great public speaker, and you can learn a lot from him just by watching his videos. And here's basically, we're coming to the ending of our presentation. This is the last module of our presentations, and this will help. We will discuss what happens after you do the pitch. So if you do the pitch, that's just half of the job, because the important part is what happens after you do the pitch. So I told previously, like in the first part of our session, that you always have to remember what is your goal of the presentation. If you're searching for money, sales, partners, your presentation is the first step to catching their attention. So never ever leave the venue after you make the presentation, because if there are people interested in your idea, in your startup, in your product, they will try to find you and they will try to approach you. When you leave the stage or when you end your speaking, you can say to them where they can find you. So if, for example, if you're at TechCrunch, you can say from the stage, thank you for being such an amazing audience. If you have any questions, please find us in that section of the building. We have a stand there, so you can approach us and demo our hardware, whatever, software, whatever. So never ever leave the venue. That's the important part. Divide and conquer. So at TechCrunch, we were two people. We were represented with two people from one team. So we were fortunate enough so we could divide the attention that we were getting. So if one person is presenting, the other person should be at the stand to show off the product continuously show. So if you have meetings and you have multiple meetings, try to split them so you can cover more. If they're important meetings, of course, it would be best that you both are there. But if they're presentation meetings, like initial, first getting to know each other, then what do you want to do? You want to divide and conquer and try to cover as much ground as you're given. Networking is the most important part after making the pitch. People will approach you, people will ask you for business cards, and that's the next point. You must be there to give them answers, to talk with them so they can ask you questions, because that's the main thing. That's why you're there. Be there, network with people. If you have teammates that are there with you, you can, and you get questions that are technical ones, send them to the technical guy. Try to cover as many people as you can, and try to get feedback from all of the people that watch your presentation. Business cards, have them on you. Of course, we're also getting into a digital age where you can just connect with LinkedIn. So it's up to you if you want to use business cards, or you can connect with LinkedIn. Business cards are best because they're a very simple way to communicate with people. Also, there is one thing, small life hack that you can do. You can, after the person is away, for example, you took 10 business cards, you go take a break, you take a pen and you note the interesting people on the business cards, because in this way, you will not forget which people are of bigger interest than the others. but never do this in front of them because that is kind of a disrespectful thing to do in front of the other person. But I assure you that people that go to these events and they have a lot of experience, most of them do this because it's kind of hard to remember all of the people. You can get in one day up to 50 to 100 business cards. So you won't be able to remember all of those people. So it's very good to highlight the business cards that are of importance to you. You have most events, startup events are 1 or 2 days. So you're kind of limited in terms of picking, in terms of how many people you can talk. So you have to pick who are the important people to talk with. Here is where you have to be very picky. Usually, a lot of the startup events that you go to have a list all of the attendees. So from that list, you can pick all of the people that you would want to talk with after you do the presentation, or maybe even before. So try to be strategic about it and find only the people that you know that are of value to you. Also, events like TechCrunch and big ones I have been to, is they have an app that helps you meet the right people based on different criteria. Download that app, talk with those people, have meetings with these people, invite them to the presentation when you're having it. So be very strategic with this. When you're presenting, basically, you can see the faces of the people if they're not too many. So you can kind of understand which people are interested in your product and which are not. You can see it by the judges' faces. Most of them are sometimes investors or people of higher rank that have access to money. So you can clearly see who is of interest and who's not. So try to, if you have the capacity to do it, try to find those people, try to find those faces that are interested in your startup. I already told it about like a couple of slides ago, but try to secure meetings with the right people. Use the app, contact them via connections. If you're going, for example, to Web Summit, you have 60,000 people, so that's too much to process. But you have also an application that allows you to sort those people and find the right people for the right meetings. Here comes the part that you're not allowed to ever miss. It's called the after party. Here is where the magic happens. In any competition, there should be, and most of the time is, an after party. This is where you create the most meaningful connections when everybody's relaxed, when everybody's a little bit drunk, tipsy. They want to talk with each other. They want to connect with each other. So you have to be there. You approach the people that you want to talk about. And the key thing with the after party, people are way more relaxed. They're way more open to communication. So you can approach them. You can ask them questions. And you can have a really good connection with them. So you can contact them later on LinkedIn. And hey, we met at this event. I enjoyed conversating with you at the after party. Can we have a meeting online, or can we meet physically? And that's where you start. And here's the thing that you also would want, I would recommend not missing it, is the after party. Usually it's a small group of people, like after the after party, people gather up in smaller groups and they go continue partying. So you want to get in that correct group with the right people to go party with them. Because if you party with them afterwards, you're gonna be their guy or their girl. Like you're gonna be their person in that group. So they're gonna have like a friend connection with you because they party with you to the end. I've heard a lot of stories that people had the most meaningful contracts, partnerships in the after party. So you may skip the drinking part if you're not a non-drinker or you don't want to do it, but you cannot skip the event itself because that is where usually the magic happens. And that will be it. If you have any questions related to public speaking or pitching, you could always contact me. Here's my confirmation number, but I love this slide a lot more, so we're going to keep it. I would really want to have some questions from you guys. Do you have any questions? If you don't have them right now, you could reach me on Facebook or LinkedIn, find me there, and I can help you with any of your ideas. I think that's the idea. You have the Facebook group, so you can reach me from there. You can share your pitch text there. That would be awesome to see what are your results, so you can actually help each other, provide feedback. One of the key things that you should always remember, so you are already a group and you already went to the live events, which is very valuable, so you know each other face to face. Try to keep up with yourselves and talk with each other, share ideas, share knowledge, share your presentations, and so you have that connection. So maybe in the future you can share actually contacts or partnerships, because building good partnership is actually the key thing to all of this. So that would be all from my part. Mary, do you have any questions?
Nu, dar eu vreau să-ți mulțumesc foarte mult pentru prezentare, pentru foarte, foarte valoroasă informație și structură extraordinar de bine pusă la punct, modul în care ai redat-o, chiar dacă de obicei la training-uri se practică foarte mult interacțiune, răspuns, că tu redai informația exact așa, este extraordinar. Mai mult ca atât, sper că o să păstrăm o să pot păstrăm acest video și o să poată să beneficieze cât mai multă lume. Asta înseamnă că o să poată să participanții să valorize, să pună pauză, să revadă informația, atât cât și prezentare o să ne dai, o să fac share, într-adevăr, foarte, foarte interesant. Ceea ce ai menționat referitor la conexiunea dintre participanți, deci mai ales în contextul actual, să faci cunoștință fizică, eu nu știu, o să fie un pic mai challenging în care perioadă, de aceea este foarte important să valorificăm relațiile și cunoștințele noastre care le avem acum, prietenii cu care noi putem să împărtășim anumite momente, cât și anumite cunoștințe din network-ul în care putem să facem anumite colaborări. Respectiv, grupul actual, ok, și ediția precedentă și ediția asta de Startup Academy, cred că e foarte necesar să fie relațiile păstrate. Ce vreau eu să spun este succes mai departe la toți și urmează deja să dividem, să deturnăm certificatele, pentru că dacă nu o să fie curând, probabil și certificatele le vom digitaliza, dar în orice caz, mersi la toți pentru participare și romanții, mersi pentru asta informație super valoroasă.
Mersi că m-ai invitat,
dacă vor fi întrebări, nu ezitați să ne scrieți, o să le adresăm lui Roman. Roman, dacă tu ai ceva de completat sau ajustat la program, ești în grup, ești liber să adaugi în orice moment.
O să adaug prezentarea care am făcut-o, pentru că mi-am dat seama că într-un moment nu am scos pauză de pe screen sharing și vorbeam după slide-uri, dar asta a fost un experiment și sper că a fost de mare folos la participanți și ținem legătura și mersi încă o dată pentru invitație. Chiar aș fi vrut să fac fizic, așa m-am pregătit să fac fizic, dar suntem în situația în care suntem și ne adaptăm la situațiile curente. Deci vă mulțumesc mult pentru atenție și mersi ție, Mare, pentru că organizezi asta, pentru că tu chiar ești energia întregii comunității noastre de startup.
Mersi frumos, mulțumesc. Deja următoarele activități, evenimente o să fie mai profesional.
Super. Mersi mult și o seară frumoasă la toți.
Pa, pa, pa.